What's a company secret you can share now that you don't work there? They are out of business now, but in the early 90s I worked at Radio Shack for a year and a half. When people would return an item because it didn't work, the manager of the store would just box it back up and sell it again as if it were new. When I asked him about it, he said, "Hopefully they will return it to a different store." I nearly got fired when I refused to sell a guy a walkie-talkie CB radio that I knew didn't work. The guy was on his way out for a hunting trip and was buying 3 of these for him and his friends. We had 2 and the third was the broken one. In front of the customer, I told the manager that one didn't work and I had tested it. The guy was happy, I told him. We arranged for him to get the last one he needed at a different store and off he went. The manager was livid with me and nearly fired me. "I'm sorry, I'm not sending people out into the forest with gear I know doesn't work." Hilariously, a few months later the manager was caught stealing from the store and got fired. I one time returned a monitor to a Fry's that had a defective mount so that it was lopsided no matter what. I literally watched the guy box it back up to normal looking, tape it, and while he was refunding my card I saw another walk over and put it back on the shelf. No wonder they're out of business now. Used to work at a graphic design firm. All our Adobe software was pirated. From what I've heard about Adobe, if I was in that game I'd be pirating too. Back when Photoshop came out it put a lot of the old school lithographers out of business. My dad was one of these. When he got laid off he copied the stack of floppy disks with Photoshop on them, bought an Apple computer, and started his own company. I used to work surveillance at a casino. From something like 3 stories high ceiling, we could zoom in on money on the table games and read the serial numbers of the bills. We could see the pips on the dice. Policy was to not look down blouses. This is true and also very annoying because I work on the floor and the guys in surveillance can't be bothered to do their job and give us a lot of HRM can't really see anything when we call them. They're busy looking down a blouse. Government-funded refugee advocacy agencies at a time were approving a disproportionate amount of young women, 18 to 25, from Syria and Iraq with sexual assault history for their services. Upon further investigation, I and my team discovered consultants from said agency were engaging in sexual relationships with these girls. They were denying them opportunities of employment to keep them in financial destitution purposely. When the girls became desperate, the offer of private prostitution was made by the consultants. I whistleblew to the organization heads. They thanked me and the consultants were gone the next day. Huge meeting with senior board, apologies. "This isn't the way we do things," speeches blah blah blah. And within 3 months me and the other 6 other complainants and investigators had all resigned from the company for different reasons. On paper it looks coincidental. In reality we were all individually pushed out. 2 of the consultants that we uncovered were doing the worst were not fired. They were given the option to resign and are currently working at other agencies with vulnerable young women. You should definitely go to the media with this. This is absolutely disgusting. Maple sap can be trucked in from other states, and where it's turned from sap to syrup decides on the state it comes from, not the location of the trees. Inbound call center. We are currently experiencing an unusually high call volume. Message is permanent. They just didn't staff adequately. Also, I suspect the menu options have not recently changed. Olive Garden breadsticks are just Franz brand breadsticks, garlic, salt, and butter. Edit. It's margarine, not butter. I forgot there is a difference. Yeah, but I'm not buying Franz sticks when Olive Garden will give me an unlimited amount that are already prepared. I worked as a dog groomer for a summer. We gave your dog a treat even if they weren't good. If you don't hear music when you're supposedly on hold, the operator simply muted their mic and can still hear you. I've heard interesting and damning things while they thought I couldn't hear them. I was setting up a new account with the phone company, back in the landline days. I think the operator meant to mute her mic but didn't. She had to do some stuff in the background while I was supposed to be on hold or something. I could hear her typing, but at the same time she was telling someone in her office about a party she'd been to the previous weekend. It was hilarious, both her story and the situation in general, but I couldn't laugh out loud. I had to stifle myself to hear the end of the story. Worked in insurance. Hundreds of people have access to your SSN with no security clearance or background check. The same is true of every HR office in existence. Worked at a major cable ISP and therefore billing cycles. They upgraded the billing system, but did something wrong, and all but the current cycle got a late charge. But instead of fixing it immediately, we were told to credit their account if the customer called in. I did the math, and for the size of our city, and the 3-4 of people wrongly charged, it was over $1 million USD. Most people just pay their bill and don't look to close. Comcast. They do this all the time. Not really worth the hour plus it takes on the phone for them to not steal from you, but it's worth it to them to steal from thousands of people. Arby's manager replaced the expiration stickers on the bread with new ones. I guess so the bread would last longer that way. I threw out 100 plus pitas with green fuzz on them after checking the manager's work. Food-related scams like this make me so angry. I agree. As someone who owns a restaurant and trains cooks, one rule I tell all my guys: never fuck with people's food. Yep, Subway manager used to do similar. Prepped all the veggies and meats, like way over prepped, and everything went out. Most things last 2 days. Lettuce after a couple of days becomes a slimy sludge. They basically wanted me to replace all the date marking stickers and call it a day. Not only was it horrifically bad, it was time intensive. But I wasn't having it. I discarded all of it, bins of waste. I told the area manager. Nobody did anything, just said be quiet. Then the manager disappeared off the face of the earth, thankfully for our sakes. If you were on live chat with customer care, I could see what you were typing before pressing send. I watched people work through grotesque, racist, sexist statements, fraudulent lies and mistruths, meticulous grammar fixes, and their whole range of emotions in real time before deleting and typing, okay. Your luggage at an airport isn't really handled with care. I worked baggage at an airport. Nothing is handled with care. If it's marked fragile, your only hope is nice baggage handlers. You should avoid packing breakable things at all costs. I never had one, but we were trained on how to properly handle a casket. The training was, be very careful, don't drop it, and for the love of God, don't sit on it like it's a horse. True story. That's what our boss said. I worked for a large construction company, and the sales guys would intentionally omit items from contracts because they received incentives for what would then become a change order. Me, you forgot to include any framing in this contract. Sales weasel. Oh, I guess it's a change order then. Customer cries. The difference between the high-quality deli meat sold at M&S and the regular deli meat sold in other grocery stores is that we changed the label. We would literally stop the production line, wait for the guy who ran the label machine to swap them out, and then start it back up again. This is not an uncommon occurrence across any product. Edit. The concept of perceived quality fascinates me. I work in wine manufacturing, and it's incredible what people will spend on wine because the packaging makes it appear high or low quality. Marketing also plays a big role, of course. Store generic brands don't advertise, or advertise much less, so costs can stay low. Cheaper packaging, cheaper advertising, same product, lower price. Hotels do not typically have security, maintenance, or housekeeping on staff 24/7. Once housekeeping finishes cleaning all the rooms, the entire staff leaves except for one front desk employee. Yeah, the amount of times I, at the time a 19-year-old kid, was left completely alone at a mid-size and largely recognizable hotel brand was honestly kinda wild. I had essentially no clue what I was doing. People would call that something in their room was broken, and literally the best I could do was go up and just kinda troubleshoot random shit. And then during that time the front desk was completely unattended. This was at like 9 p.m. to not 3 a.m. The stain protector is only useful if you actually file a claim. It isn't a magic fucking potion. Most furniture companies sell some sort of stain protector as an add-on. People buy it, thinking it has some magic ability to prevent stains over the life of a piece of upholstery, then, 5 years later, spill some Kool-Aid on that shit, and the stain doesn't come out. With most of these protectors, there's a warranty claim process that will get you a new sofa, or a new set, if your sofa pattern isn't made anymore, but nobody ever files a claim. That's the gimmick. The company is counting on you not actually holding them to the deal that they made you, and virtually nobody does. On a similar note, a sofa we bought at a big box furniture store has broken 4 times now. They replaced a section of it 3 times and that section continues to break. We're not rough on it, but the wood cracks. We're hoping this time they actually repair it instead of replacing it. The last time they replaced it, the guys delivering even said that they knew they'd be back. I've never been so happy I bought a warranty, but also so frustrated at a cheap product. Store is Value City. The vehicle modification shop at Chillicothe Correctional Institution in Chillicothe, Ohio dumps waste coolant from the machine shop into a storm drain that empties directly into the Scioto River. Because the chemical disposal tank is a 55-gallon drum in the paint shop, and that's much too small. They can't throw me into solitary confinement for complaining anymore. Edit. This happens about once a year, when the machine's coolant reservoirs are emptied and the coolant replaced. It's not on a schedule, it's one of those things that you do when work is slow. Each machine holds 15 to 20 gallons, and usually you just add more as it evaporates, but eventually it gets nasty and needs replaced. It's supposed to go in a waste tote to be disposed of safely, which is what every non-government machine shop does. Being able to prove this is being done would require knowing when they're going to do this, and that's a decision that's often made spur of the moment. Hey, work is slow, let's have a clean-up day. There aren't any phones in the machine shop, either. A container to store the waste properly costs $200. Why waste taxpayer money when we can just poison the taxpayers instead? What's a company secret you can share? Leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this one.